Okay, so if this is actually a very important part, it sets the tone for one of the levels of the psyops that this movie is running. And it's actually running it to its own lower level initiates. Because remember, the public is unaware of what these codes are all about. So the movie is intentionally speaking to its lower level secret society initiates, and you can see where it's even duping them. It's actually duping them. And as I said, there's multiple levels of understanding of the codes here. And just don't forget that they're not speaking to the masses. So they have to be speaking to the initiates, the only other people that know the codes here, in this time of 83, not in this time of, modern YouTube where so many people are aware of what these symbols mean. In the past, they didn't. And there's still a lot of symbols in this movie that we probably still don't understand, but regardless, this movie is speaking to its initiates with these codes. My point is that some of these codes are meant for lower level and higher level initiates. There's multiple layers, which is going to reveal the deception in the first place, because they're deceiving their own people on so many levels. So the key to understanding that is this movie theater, El Rey. Now, pretty interesting here for a lot of real deep reasons that might be hard to explain as it relates to the Mesoamerican actor and what the spin's going to be as it's associated with the U.S., the United States, and its seeking of the cockatrice. And I'll refer you to a video series I did entitled USA Seeks the Cockatrice to see what I mean and how this cockatrice is related to this image that you see here, the evil eye, that they're going to connect back as you see flooding, as the Illuminati card said they would flood this image everywhere. Well, that's part of the psyops. They're trying to expose themselves as being evil, but there's a faction of themselves that wants you to believe that they're detached from that evil, that they're really not. But they're making you believe they are because they're willingly exposing themselves. And they're going to spin it that they're separate and that this whole evil faction is connected to this angry, wrathful, vengeful Yahweh character, just as I told you in the past. But the spin is that they're going to still try to maintain and continue the connection of Jesus Christ to Yahweh. So get you to believe neither in Jesus either, because up until this time, nobody has had the courage to step forth and show 100% that Jesus and Yahweh are separate. And if you view my videos, you can see where the Spirit of Truth has absolutely allowed us to see that truth. So El Rey or Rey, and we'll talk about maybe the deeper meaning later. El Rey or Rey first means the king. El equals deity. Rey, in its most simplistic form, means light. And then we combine these and we have deity of the dawn. And of course, we know about the New World Order as they're exposing themselves. You got to remember, there's a spin. Don't you think that all of this is so cut and dry? Don't you think that they have put all their cards on the table? Illuminati card, pun intended. They haven't. They haven't shown all their faces. There's many masks. There's many mirrors. And there's many illusions. You haven't seen the worst of the strong delusion until you see what they spin after this second cup event. And when there's a destruction, and then the next events that unfold, you just have no idea how far this is going to go. They've been preparing, as I told you. They've already looted at Desert Storm the Iraqi museums that held some of the most valuable artifacts concerning the understanding of who these ancient Anunnaki were, that there were two factions, that all of this is realistic in perspective of how the Urantia describes it, and even how the Bible describes it if you're able to read between the lines or correctly divide the word. Well, they did not want you to see the fullness of what all this means, because then if you did and people were allowed to research it, then guess what? You're not going to believe their lie. So they looted those museums, just as they've been controlling the knowledge ever since. Just as you see, Google is El Gog, anagram for El Gog. I mean, you have to understand this, this is all just beyond obvious. Okay, let's just put it that way. So they're exposing themselves, guys, willfully, and there's a portion of what they are that they're holding back. That's what they're going to try to align themselves with, and that's what I'm telling you. That's what these Danites are connected to with these Pleiadians. That's what they want you to believe that they are, and they're going to have the technological prowess. They're going to have the poise. They're going to have the grace. Remember, they're going to be illuminated. All of these Danites / Pleiadians, these Nordic-looking, blonde-haired, blue-eyed beings, are going to be like you wouldn't believe. They're going to be what Hitler was trying to achieve with the master race, because he was aware of this detached master race that was to be in the inner earth. And this is where we get this huge Aryan deception that is somehow rooted itself deep into some of my Caucasian brothers and sisters' hearts. And I don't understand it. Well, I understand where it comes from, but I don't understand why you don't understand where it comes from. And if you read the Urantia, you would see where this Aryan confusion comes about. And if you would read the Urantia, you would still understand that Jesus Christ is not Aryan, nor is he Jew, nor is he Asian, nor is he black, nor is he any of those things. He's any of the peoples. He is the creator of all the peoples at once. All the colors of light can be found therein with the fullness of the spectrum of light. All of them. It's only when light enters into the material prism that the light perceives itself as being separate from the fullness of the original beam of light. And this is where we get this fraction of the prism of light into different spectrums of color. And if you times that to exactly what happens in a real prism, a real material prism, what happens? All the colors, all the races segregate. It's because there's an obscurity that is now causing a distortion of the harmony of the fullness of the light. But that's really an illusion, because the light itself, regardless of any separation or perceived separation, is still of origin one thing. So if you can go back to the origin, the origination of what everybody already is and has sprung from, we're already all still the same thing. There's just different peoples on different evolutionary paths of spirit, material, moral, intellectual progression. But nonetheless, it's not a race to see who gets there first, but it is about to make sure all get there on time, if you can get my drift. So the Father doesn't plan on losing anyone. The universe is big enough for all. That's why the universe is ever expansive. It's ever expansive to the supply and demand of the eternal souls that have found their way there. So racism ain't real. It's a product of the divergent mind. And it's a shadow philosophy. It's not a part of Jesus Christ's message of brotherhood for all and love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, so anybody that's harboring any sort of concoction of anything related race-wise as a doctrine of God is blowing it. Is blowing it for the common sense that's there. To see the common sense that that's not our Father. That if the Father has already willingly sprung these different races of all colors up from the soils of the earth, then these races are a part of the divine prerogative. They're a part of the divine will. And you begin to set yourself against the divine will of God. I wouldn't want to be on that side of the fence, to tell you the truth. And regardless, I love different peoples. The more different they are, the more interesting they are, the more diverse they are, the more I feel that they can teach me. The more unique of experiences I feel that they can offer me. So I like different peoples. I really do. And I like all peoples. You know, I don't have a problem with it. So thank you for hearing me out on some of these perspectives here. Anyway, get ready for the spin. They're exposing themselves. Listen to what this theater really comes down to. El Rey is a fictional Mexican village that acts as a sanctuary for expatriate American fugitives. First used by author Jim Thompson in his 1959 pulp novel, The Getaway, and again referenced in the 1996 Robert Rodriguez film From Dusk till dawn. Sound familiar? And now remember, this dusk till dawn is vampires, and then we have what? Blood. The vampires require blood. What does Yahweh require? Blood. What do we see in Isaiah chapter 34? Blood. We can see that a lot of people are being duped. There's multiple layers of these initiates that are even teaching on YouTube. They're teaching multiple levels of the psyops without realizing there's a higher psyops above them that reveals the psyops that they're teaching as false. And if they could just look beyond the tip of their own nose into their own organizations, they would see where they're all being fooled greatly. And this movie proves it. This movie proves that you're all being fooled, at least those that are a part of these organized societies of deception. So what I'm trying to tell you, that if you remember what the Illuminati cards are trying to say, that they're trying to expose their propaganda everywhere. And just like you saw in that video when I was walking through that department store and there was that symbol with that lady that was showing the Baphomet sign, and this is all a part of it. They're exposing their symbols everywhere willingly because they want you to willingly believe that this portion of society is evil. But remember, Babylon is two parts. They're only getting rid of commercial Babylon, of which commercial Babylon is exposing itself through its propaganda and products. That part of commercial Babylon is going to go. But the ecclesiastical Babylon that's really sponsored the commercial Babylon and use it as a medium to distort everybody's reality is staying. But they want you to believe that there's a separate faction that commercial Babylon is, which is related to the United States government as it's portrayed by the supposed supervillain Obama, who they want everybody to believe is the Antichrist by huge channels like Jonathan Kleck, which are spewing the psyops on a particular level that he might not even realize he's a part of himself. There's so many levels of the psyops going down because there aren't enough seers out there that see through the depths of the totalic deception. But if you view this movie in light of what I'm teaching you here and use it as an educational tool for what it is, comparative to your sight as you can see the verses as it pertains to the Bible, then man, you can see through it all. So El Rey is a fictional Mexican village that acts as a sanctuary for expatriate American fugitives. In both stories, El Rey possesses a near mythic reputation. Babylon possesses, that's the Babylon. And represents, I think I missed the in here, and represents the protagonist's ultimate objective. But in truth, it's a hellish community where inflation runs free and all new arrivals are enslaved and ultimately executed when they can no longer work. All right, there's your spin, guys. This is the spin that they're teaching the lower initiates. Remember, they're not teaching this to the masses. The masses are watching this movie oblivious. They didn't just Google what El Rey meant the second they saw it. They're just watching an entertainment movie, eating popcorn and sugar products, just sucking them down, okay? So they're speaking to the initiates. These lower initiates are being duped because they see El Rey, they know to research or have already researched their understanding of the doctrines, and then these doctrines make them believe that this is this supposed New World Order that they're exposing with all this propaganda that we see right here now, which is associated with exactly what we're being taught, that these New World Order clowns are going to put us in these prison camps and then try to enslave us all into some slave camera work, and then they're going to execute us if we can't work any further. Well, that's basically Obamacare. That's basically Obamacare. Is it not? That's a psyops, guys. That's a psyops, because in reality, this New World Order never comes into, this New World Order doesn't come into fullness. Because remember, in my drawing, as we're learning now, it's a two-part event. Give unto her double, Babylon. These are going to be the demon ones, just like you saw on that demon card that unbelievably almost matches my drawing with these reptilian demons flying around. This is the psyops. So they want you to believe that the White House, as all these channels are pumping real hard, that's associated with these demons and demonic, but really they're just pawns, and they're just acting out and doing what they're told, and okay, that's how we're going to fool the people. Okay, no problem, but I'm going to get all this in the end. Cool, as long as I'm taken care of, that's what I want to do. Well, that's all. Think about it. That's how it's happening. So it's a two-part event. These two factions are being birthed out the same womb, if you can't see. They're being birthed out the same womb. These two factions. These Pleiadians that they're going to want you to perceive as angels. Okay, remember the 7 stars of the Pleiades. Remember what we see. See through the psyops right here. There's the 69. Isn't that in the movie? Isn't the 69 in the movie? With a, even if you don't see it with the numbers how I showed it when she says Cancer at the 1 hour, 13 minute, and 47 second mark, you can see it at the end of the movie when she's wearing that dress with the huge upside down triangle. Okay? Where the triangle point is pointing downward. And then that represents this representation of the unification of the same thing that the 69 is trying to display, because she's got the iron triangle directly behind her. As above, so too below. The two divergent polarities. Love, war. Fertility, death. That's what she represents. That's what the movie's representing, whether you can see the depth of that or not. But what I want you to see is the Pleiades are here. What do you see, 7 stars? This is their coding, not mine. I just copied this diagram. Well, look, what do I got here? The 7, the Pleiades. And then if you've been viewing the Illuminati cards, like some people have just recently been showing me, we can see that they're advertising the psyops just as I foresaw it, and I'm telling you it right now. Here's the demons that they're going to want you to believe are the demons, that they're going to want you to believe are connected to the USA, and then they're going to want you to believe that there's these other good guys from the moon who really you see are associated with Ishtar, and that are now going to be fried by Yahweh, who's going to pay the sins, or the sinners, the true wages of death, which ends up being Ephraim planted in a pleasant place who's getting duped. Ephraim, you're getting duped. You're getting duped. Because they want you to believe Ephraim is really right here, but don't believe Ephraim's there, because Ephraim wants you to believe that they're going, and some of them are going underground into Mount Weather. But I'm telling you, all of these guys are really going to be safe, just as we saw Hosea tell us that Ephraim is going to be planted in a pleasant place. But that's perception of Ephraim. Now, if we see the perception of the seer, it tells you that this place ain't so pleasant, because the wages of sin are death. Their God, as it's unifying with the birth goddess here, birthing out this psyops on this multiple level of to get these people to believe in these demons as the real bad guys, and that they're separate from these guys. These guys created these guys. What do you think all these gray aliens were doing, collecting all this biological material from these people for the last 35, 40 years, and probably 500 thousands of years, but at least relative to popular history that we know of now? They've been collecting human DNA, and then they've been collecting supposedly human fetuses. They're running a biological program to create some sort of creature being that they can use to distort your view of what the truth is. And it's going to be relative to these beings here. I'm telling you, man. It's all coming out, man. It's all coming out. So that's the psyops of the movie. I've got the understanding of the psyops of this movie already recorded in the strong that I'm just beginning to feel the fullness of myself right now. So really, they want you to believe that this New World Order is going to be all this bad, that Obama's all about it, and they're all going to do this. But really, none of that's going to ever come to pass. Because after this destruction is committed by Ephraim, and then they're going to make you think that Ephraim has gone under the ground, when in reality, just some of the lower levels of Ephraim that don't really know what the frick is going on are going to go underground. And then the really higher levels of Ephraim are going to this pleasant place where they're going to be planted on the moon. Just like John says you and the scriptures tell you. Give me 1 second, and it'll help me calm down also a little bit. There's a train coming. Whew. I get a little excited as I'm seeing this, because I just saw a lot of that for the first time. Okay, so it's a psyops. They're running on their own people, just like you see Ephraim's going to bring his children to the murderer in so many ways. So, once again, in both stories, El Rey possesses a near mythic reputation. That's going to be Babylon, supposed to possess this mythic reputation. Only problem is that people don't realize that it is double, that it's both commercial and ecclesiastical, but it's unified as one thing. It's unified as one thing. So just a portion of it, just like you see Sam is knocked out. You're only made to believe Sam is knocked out. Think about Coney, knock out New York. New York, the material girl. Sam represents the material girl. We're right on target. It says, but in truth, talking about it, the hellish community, that's the psyops they're running. This New World Order, all this crazy stuff that's going to go down. I'm telling you, that fullness will never be reached. Now, people will go into FEMA camps. They're going to collect the population, all this stuff. But I can almost see that you could imagine the supposed Danites trying to show up at that time and to begin to start being the ones that free everybody, just like they're advertising on their channels right now. If you read some of the channels like Atlantic Over with Mythy and all that stuff, which I haven't looked at in a long time. I don't even know if they're still up. But those types of channels that are touting the Pleiadians as these saviors, that's just what they're trying to tell you to do. Well, that's exactly what they fulfill with the book of Judges in the description that Samson's supposed to have this long hair. Well, if you look at Revelation chapter 9, it describes them having long hair like women. And then you start looking at the Thule Society, you start looking at the Vril Society, you start looking at their affiliation with this long hair as a way to gain some sort of supposed strength. And then you tie that back up with Samson and his supposed strength, and then Samson being the 13th judge of Israel, and then he's a Danite, and that's exactly what the Bible says in Genesis chapter 49, and then it describes it in Deuteronomy chapter 33. I think it's verse 22, if I'm not mistaken, that Dan is going to be an end times judge, and he's going to leap forth from Bashan, and then Bashan is the land of the giants. So think about all this. Think about all this. They're running a psyops on many levels. This movie can prove it. This movie can prove to some of you lower level initiates that the psyops is being run on you, if you can just bear with me and see deeper into the symbolism and see into this for what it really is. Because I'm telling you, they're exposing themselves. And the Illuminati cards are almost laughing and telling you that's exactly what they're doing. They're exposing themselves. They're flooding commercial media, which is commercial Babylon with propaganda, and then they're fulfilling the truth movement as sodium pentothal, which really, if you research sodium pentothal like we're going to do and show you, it doesn't reveal any truth. And that brings me to something that's absolutely incredible. Operation End Times made a comment to me after I put up that video where I was describing the sodium pentothal as truth serum. And I'm still going to show y'all guys something that I got recorded about this. But he told me that James Holmes guy was supposedly being arraigned, and they were like pleading insanity or something. Well, what's significant to me about this James Holmes guy is that I gave this warning in a video entitled July Equals Sacrifice, and I said that there would be a sacrifice in July. I felt strongly that it would have everything to do, if not be the second cup. But what really happened was a lesser reflection of all the second cup details portrayed in that shooting, murder, in that movie theater once again. In this movie theater, and then the movie theater was airing the Batman movie, which you know is all about Gotham City, which now I understand is just a straight up, not even anagram, straight up wording, word sound have power, got ham. And then it fulfills what I've been telling you guys the whole time, that this whole thing is designed as a destruction, a judgment, and a sacrifice against Idume, which is a unification of Edom, which means Gentiles, with Judah, Judea, meaning the believers in Jesus Christ. Think about this. And remember, Judah in the Old Testament is his brother's keeper. And then we're taught to believe, to love our brothers as ourselves. This judgment is against us. And I'm telling you, there's a psyops involved with it. There's a deeper spin where they're trying to expose this Yahweh. They themselves don't really fulfill with this Yahweh. they fulfill with a deeper fullness of entity that's a unification of an androgyny of this fallen prince with this bastardized version of a mother spirit known as Ishtar. And then you see Yahweh in the subversive symbolism fulfill that, if you can understand the symbolism of the moon, of both being light and dark, positive and negative, which would then fulfill him also as an androgynous being to those that had the eyes to see. And then you see Ishtar fulfills herself there, and then now you can unify those two supposedly divergent philosophies and theologies and see underneath the symbolism of Yahweh, he's still hiding his consort, Ishtar, which if you look back in history, you'll see that the ancient Hebrew god Yahweh did have a consort, did have a wife. Now the symbolism of the moon with its dark side and its light side fulfills that polarity. That's why these Saturn people are out there. And it might not be all of them, because some of them might be fooled too and think they're doing the good thing. But they're trying to get you away from the very complex but yet evident, very real truth revealing symbolism about the moon and what's all going down with it. Seriously. So don't fall for the spin. Don't fall for the commercial Babylon propaganda psyops of them exposing themselves. And don't believe that these two factions for 1 minute are separate. You've got to believe in this one that comes way over here. And that's where you're going to see the single one on this horse and that armor of righteousness with that long and sure sword, which is catching those that have fallen. Look at that. That's right. That's right. That's our Creator right there, as He's symbolized in the end of Revelation on that horse. And then I've drawn that in there, and it just couldn't even be. I just couldn't be any more thankful. I know it to be true. I know it all to be true. And there we have, as we see, after we get the second cup, we get these beings show. We're going to end up having this beast out of the earth that has 2 horns, and he spake as a dragon. Right there. Beast coming out of the earth. But almost simultaneously as this being appears, right here over him is the fullness of Jesus Christ. And I'm telling you, remember, Jesus Christ declares those days are going to be shortened. He says if he didn't, no flesh would survive. And I'm telling you, it's all there. Okay, so don't get fooled by the psyops, okay? Don't do it. All right. Yes, we can see that it's corrupted, but I'm telling you, from the root to the fruit, the whole design is to corrupt it, to weaken the minds of the people so that they can build a military might from the stocks of the human, of the nation, of the peoples of the nations that they created. And then they're just sifting through the higher intellects at the collegiate level to pool those people by fraternities into their secret societies. And then the rest of the masses, they don't care nothing about. You get me? But it's all a part of the same agenda. It's all a part of the same plan. They're going from hot to cold, from good to evil. Well, that's exactly what we see the path of the Leviathan is. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Okay? Jesus says you can be cold. He says, or you can be hot. But if you are running this snake in motion and you're going from knowingly good and knowingly evil, then he's going to spew you out. Doesn't mean that he's going to destroy you, but he's going to spew you out of the mouth of his word. And the mouth of his word, which is reserved for the glory of the elect, those are the ones who keep the commands, love your neighbors yourself, love your father with all your might. So, as I said, you have to begin to realize the fullness of how all this interrelates and connects as best we all can. All right, I got this little note here that says, notice it's a movie exposing movies. And, I mean, they're a movie themselves, and then they're exposing a secret coded message, and the secret coded message is about another evil secret faction that's supposed to go under the earth that's all about blood that needs blood. Well, guess who that's supposed to be? Like I said, that's supposed to be our Obama administration and all that stuff, and they're supposed to be going to Mount Weather. Well, I'm telling you, the lower faction of them will, but really, them other ones, they ain't. But they're all the same thing. Just, they don't allow all of them within their own organization to know it all. And you view the pyramid. when you see the pyramid, there's only just enough at the very pinpoint for a select few. The more levels that you go down, the more people you begin to experience. But what they experience is less knowledge than what these fool people up here experience. So it's all, I'm telling you, it's all a psyops that's in your face. And I'm just trying to help the people that might be a part of this to begin to come out of it. Come out of Babylon. You're in Babylon. You've been taught to think there's one Babylon, commercial Babylon. There's double Babylon. There's ecclesiastical Babylon. Ecclesiastical Babylon is the worst Babylon to be in. Worst Babylon to be in. All right, well, there's your understanding of why Regina is being symbolized working at this El Rey, which comes up to mean this mythological place that's associated with the legend of this Babylon as it's described in association with the New World Order. But in truth, it is a hellish community where inflation runs free and all new arrivals are enslaved and ultimately executed when they can no longer work. I mean, that's it right there. All right, so they want you to believe that this is, they're getting rid of this, and that so the fullness of them can enjoy the earth and get what they really want out of it, being symbolized by the fertility goddess Regina as she unites with the masculine fallen prince. And then you see the children of the world holding the rabbit, which is going to show the continuation of the species. And then, of course, there's dark hair, and then there's light hair, and then it starts all over again. Light and dark, dark to light. They don't quit. Well, it's just intense. So Regina herself is involved in the Tempest. As you see her playing the Tempest, that's a higher level that the lower level initiates probably didn't get. Now Regina herself is playing the Tempest. She is working this Tempest here, and she's a part of it. And you know who sends the Tempest is Ephraim, and that's who they want you to believe is this evil group right here that's separate from this evil group right here. But both these evil groups are connected. Because how do you get to this place over here unless you're riding in one of these right here? And what do we see flying around all over the place right here? It's these cats right here. The drawing, the spirit sight that I was given is showing you. They're all the same. They're all the same. And don't forget that this showed you that they were all the same. That the agenda's all here. The agenda's already all there. So you can't fall for the psyops in this movie when you know what we've been talking about on this channel for so long. Even when you read into the code, there's a psyops there to catch the lower initiates that have only been indoctrinated so far. Okay? But if you haven't been indoctrinated, you can see from the root to the fruit, you don't worry about any of the torn branches. That's of no concern to you. There's no sustenance there. It's cut off. It's cut off from the waters of the truth that still is involved in anything that is being exhibited or living in the fullness of creation. So even within them and their lie, we can see that their lie is built upon a truth. So from this lie, as long as we dig into the fullness of what's there, we can find the truth just humbly waiting for us. And that's what we're seeing right now. So Regina plays Tempest. We connected that already with Isaiah chapter 28. The Regener, she's 18, which equals 666. And of course that represents the carbon atom. That represents the distortion of Adam in general. That represents the redirection or the reprogramming of the genes to create the Nephilim, which eventually create the L-ites, which eventually spring forth the Danny Mason Keters. And you can see how it all fits with the rest of the movie. The video game high score shows at this point in the movie, it shows DMK, number 6. Now, number 6, you have to remember, that's the sixth sense. And they're the ones that believe they're enlightened. They're the ones that believed they're illuminated. And this is why it's number 6. Now, at about the 9/11 mark, we have the people partying. Once again, the common people. And as I said, they're trying to spin this as the drunkards of Ephraim. And I told you it can't be the drunkards of Ephraim if the drunkards of Ephraim are associated with this crown of pride. These people aren't trying to achieve no crown of pride. Those are the ones that are following the agenda from the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Those are the ones that are trying to achieve the Kundalini rising, that have built this same philosophy into the destruction of the world at the end of each world age, to where they've created a climax that's brought them to this seventh and final chakric world age manifestation that we're in right now, where they're going to have the ability, and they've created enough inertia and momentum to bust the seal. Okay, so at about 9/11, I don't know if it was exactly 9/11, but it was pretty close to being right there. The people partying, and that's danger, that's terror, and as we know, the whole Occupy Wall Street movement was almost a gigantic party more than it was some sort of truth movement. But then it turned into something that just was a joke, man. That was such a joke. Anyway, don't fall, as I said, for that understanding of the drunkards of Ephraim, because, I mean, the drunkards of Ephraim are those of Isaiah chapter 34, who you see Ephraim being connected as northern Israel with the unicorns. In Isaiah 34, its land was being soaked with that blood, and they had come down in Isaiah 34. Where did they come down from? Because they had to go somewhere. Where did they come down from? And I told you, they want to mimic and make it look that these Danites come down too, but the Danites actually come from below. But they are going to make it look like they've come from above. Verse 7, Isaiah 34, that blood sacrifice. And the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood. It's when they come down, the land is already soaked with blood. Okay? And their dust made fat with fatness. Their dust, incredible. Their dust made fat with fatness. And you got to realize that the fallen prince, the Antichrist, is worried about this number of the man, which is 666, so he can turn into the image of the beast, which is the valley of the shadow of death, the carbon atom itself. So he's trying to take an animal form. That animal form just so happens to be mankind. And in order to do it, he needs the dust of the earth, of which you know the serpent was condemned to eat the dust of the earth all of his life, which you can see there's a double meaning, that he needed to eat the dust of the earth all of his life so that he could collect this dust. In other words, this DNA genetic material, and then infuse it somehow with this blood identity so that he can create himself as a material living being. And he needed the blood of a sacrifice, and as you know, they're always looking for a sacrifice of the pure. Well, it just so happens that in the fullness of things, we see that the Christians, the aim of their sacrifice are the ones that are pure enough for them to actually sacrifice to receive some sort of life from, and that would be the wine, the blood of Jesus Christ, in which we believe in, that now they themselves are getting drunk from. It's all there. Don't fall for the psyops. There's the great owl. I just have to show it to you again. Just have to show it to you again. Don't fall for the psyops, man. Don't do it. It's so deep, and so many people are, even after they see stuff like this, because they're not even ready to comprehend this. Not even ready to comprehend this. So I'm telling you, when Isaiah is saying here, and remember how incredible that was about the fading flower. Remember talking about that, and how the lotus flower represents the Kundalini. And if you remembered in the pet goat video, when the apple was split, who's the apple? New York City. And they're splitting it. Now that's that cleaving of ecclesiastical Babylon from commercial Babylon. And then what did they get out of that? In the center was the five-pointed star, or not the five-pointed, I think it was the six-pointed, or the lotus flower itself sprung from that, which should have been symbolism for the tetrahedron, the flower of life. And then that's that very same flower now that you see that the Bible, the seer Isaiah is giving you the fullness, that these true drunkards of Ephraim are the ones that have committed this sacrifice, that are now hoping to achieve this fullness of the serpent lie, this illumination. But the seer sees, Isaiah says, nope, that flower is going to fade. The fat valleys, it's telling you that I'm right. It's telling you that I'm right. The fat valleys, I'm just seeing this. In verse number 6, Isaiah 34, the sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with the fatness, and with the blood of the lambs and goats, and with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Adume. Incredible, man. Incredible. And their dust made fat with fatness. Just incredible. Therefore shall... Man, it's just intense. What craziness. What craziness. Alright, so get this, guys. They're going to commit this evil act. Revelation chapter 13, verse 13. Revelation chapter 8, verse 8. All of this as it comes into the fullness. Okay? But I want you to realize that, and I'm just going to say this real quick. We'll talk about it maybe later in another video. Certainly needs another video. I want you to realize that either something backfires on them, on what they cause, or something of a more larger natural occurrence happens that they themselves have not banked on. And this is where line 15 comes into play. Now, this is talking about these evil ones that are summed up as these multitude of nations band together under the ideology of Ephraim. And then in Hosea it says he shall bring his children to the murderer. This is going to be the children of the nations of the world, just like we see the Georgia Guidestones declare that, like, what is it, 500.5 billion people they want off the world. I mean, come on, that's the children of the world, and the nations of the world are going to impose it. And then it's this Rosicrucian Rose thing, and then if you follow this Rosicrucian thing back, you're going to go back to Germany roots, and you're going to go back to this Aryan thing, and you're going to get yourself right on back to this understanding of Ephraim and Manasseh. All right. It says, because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death. Who has made a covenant with death? Who? Because who is death? We read all this. It's all right there. So, for we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves. All right. The falsehood that they've hid themselves, that's the psyops. That's the psyops. They want you to believe they've hid themselves under the earth, and they're promoting that, and Mount Weather is a promotion of that under West Virginia. And then remember where they were getting in Virginia, the state that I'm from, where there was an earthquake, and they were saying that the Pleiadians were saying, yeah, we were blowing certain up of the Illuminati faction. Psyops. They weren't. They're just planting the seeds of distortion in your mind to get you to believe that. For we have made lies our refuge. The lies that they have made their refuge is the moon. I don't know if I've talked to you guys about this yet. I'm going to say it again because I've got a clearer understanding now. Their refuge, their true refuge, is this pleasant place, which is going to be the moon. That's where they believe they've got a pleasant place. And I'm telling you, their belief is wrong, as you can see, that they're being kindled by these coals. Well, this will be the fulfillment of what verse 15 is really trying to tell us all right now. After it comes down further to what verse 17 says, that even their places of refuge are going to be swept away. Going to be swept away. Water shall overflow the hiding place fulfills what I said in the Rabbi T. In the Rabbi T rhyme. Another prophetic declaration describing that these rabbits, if they go too far down in the abyss, that they're going to drown. And the ones that are too far down in the abyss are in the abyss of their own lies, and some of these people might actually go into the inner earth for refuge. It's going to be overflowed. It's going to be overflowed with water when something more detrimental than any of these people are realizing is going to happen. It's just so incredible here. But what I want you to see at this point, think about this, guys. We have made a covenant with death. As I said, that's the sacrifice. And with hell are we at agreement. They have agreed to do this. They're agreeing to the reasons why they need this. How Inky is convincing them that this needs to be done, and that these are undesirables, and that You have dominion over the earth. It's your job to clean the earth. And then once you do that we can come out. All right. It says, when the overflowing scourge, they're showing that they have pre-knowledge of something here. They have pre-knowledge of this overflowing scourge, but they're being taught that it's going to pass through and it's not going to come unto them. It's not going to come unto them. Well, those are the ones that fulfill themselves at this supposed pleasant place. But in reality, we see this scourge does come unto them. As you can see that there is this kindling of their roots there at that location of the pleasant place. Now, if I was to probably look in this drawing a little further, and I'm already beginning to see it now, with how the tree that's planted at the pleasant place has an explosion that's happening there at the moon. And I think this explosion at the moon is the thing that actually damages their pleasant place, that could lead up to a greater understanding for me in a whole lot of things right now. And it almost might even, I can't even begin to tell y'all how much I'm beginning to occur to me right now. Anyway, it says, for we have made lies our refuge. The lies that they have made the refuge is the moon. The moon is a place of lies. They've lied to us about it. They've lied to us about what's there. They lied to us about who's been there, who's going there, and who stayed there. And they have killed to protect it. Okay? It's saying in the Bible's words that they have made that place their refuge. Unreal. And under falsehood, now the falsehood of where their refuge is supposed to be, they're telling us they're going to go under the earth. And under falsehood, under the pretense of that falsehood of them being under the earth, they've hid themselves. They've hid themselves from the reality of where they really are on the moon by making everybody believe that they're going under the ground. Now, as I said, some of the lower initiates that have been duped, they are going to go under the ground. Yep. And they're going to perish. They're going to perish. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation of stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste. Judgment also will I lay to the line, and righteousness to the plummet. And the hail shall sweep away the refuge of lies, and the waters shall overflow the hiding place. And your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, then ye shall be trodden down by it. Wow. These ones that actually fake and commit second cup, as you see, they're already preparing to fake and commit the second cup now. As you see, Revelation chapter 13 clearly says a he, and that he is the entire ideological tribe of Ephraim. Ephraim is a multitude of nations. That he is the one that brings this fire from the sky. It's going to come for the moon, just as the Spirit of truth has allowed me to see. But now the Spirit of the truth has allowed us to see the fullness, that he who kills with the sword, who's that sword? Isaiah 34, my sword shall be bathed in heaven. His sword shall be bathed in heaven. Remember that. The moon is in heaven. Oh boy. Oh boy. Verse 5, Isaiah 34. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. And then it's describing it as coming down. So something's coming down from heaven, but the fullness, from what I can see, is that there's actually going to be blood at their heavenly refuge. But they see it as only the sword itself coming down, but we see the initial bathing of the blood is taking place in heaven. And then, as we can see, that this refuge is actually destroying them. And then, wow, we can see a huge explosion now that looks like this tree of Ephraim that's supposed to be planted in a pleasant place now mimics itself as a mushroom cloud. The mushroom cloud now somehow I'm glad you guys go through this with me and have patience with me. The mushroom cloud now unifies the first, check it out, here's the mushrooms, the first and the second cup events. Unreal. 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 Man, I want to show y'all guys something soon about this crooked step right here of this being who I've told you is inky, and then look at the way these hands are right here, which is the same crooked crossover, which is distorting what? The seal, the tetrahedron. This is another one of those drawings that I did over 20 years ago, and there is this fallen prince right there. Incredible. The serpent, Nahesh, with the double. There's the 11, the towers, the money sign. It's just incredible. And then this depiction of how I even learned about him was because he's in relationship to the understanding of the book of Urantia. And then we have the symbolism from how I learned about him right there in the book of Urantia. And then, man, there's the tetrahedron, which is a seal that has all these eyes in it that I never even realized were them being sealed within the seal. And then at the top, you see now at the bottom, it's upside down. It's upside down. That's that subversive government that wants to come from below, above. But what we see when they do it in a unification process of the two eyes. Now I'm seeing that this is the fulfillment of my drawing here, of those same two eyes coming together, just like you saw in this drawing. Just like you saw in this drawing where they were bringing the two polar opposites together as they've made them appear. Then from the hemispheres of the brain, when they bring the two eyes together, it's the same thing that you see everywhere you look that I've drawn and everything I've done. So I'm getting to the hour point. We didn't get far in this video at all, but I guess I feel like if you guys can follow me and maybe just realize that you're kind of sharing some of my own personal experiences and how I see things and am experiencing the truth as I experience it, and the validations that I'm able to realize from it all. Maybe that's how you would see it, but to get you guys to see it a little further here, I want you to look at this part right here that has just recently astounded me that I have not showed you guys yet. I want you to see the exit sign right here, okay? And in this incredible symbolism here that many of you should be able to begin to recognize is so relevant to what we've been talking about. And this is deep right here. It really is. It all has major meaning that I'm just myself figuring out. So I want you to see that this doorway here, which has got this light coming out, but yet in a way it's damaged. It's almost showing a destruction too, in a way, a damage from a destruction. It's kind of how I'm seeing it now. This exit leads to this place here. Now, who's looking for the exit? Well, those that are looking for that special refuge that we saw in Isaiah 28. Those that have made that deal with death, that agreement with hell. Okay, and we know that that's the second cup, that's the sacrifice. They've got the refuge, they can commit the act, the moon's under control. Well, have you seen some of the videos showing the moon has got some trees on it that look like fir trees? There's the fir trees. There's the exit. There's the exit that they're going to go to. And then it's all based upon the seal right here, which I even knew at around 20 years old was associated with 19.5. Well, I just did somehow. I've only in my adult years learned how, but I guess I just, with my intuition, I just knew that it did. I knew the minute that I saw Richard C. Hoagland in some videos that my dad had. That's how I saw it when I was younger, because my dad is a truth seeker also. I just knew immediately when I heard that. Like I do so many things when I see it, I immediately log it into my catalog of truth and combine it with the other variable truths to form a bigger picture of the whole. And I've been doing it all my life. All right, so here's the exit. And I'm telling you, if the exit is the moon for their pleasant place, which has now got some trees on it, but yet it's still a what? What is it, people? And I can show it to you in Ezekiel chapter 19. It's a dry and thirsty ground. So it's a pleasant place, and I don't remember, but some of you guys told me something I couldn't make out from the comments exactly, but are they bringing water to the moon, or did they announce bringing water to the moon or something like this? And they would be needing to bring water to the moon because it's a dry and thirsty ground, is it not? What symbolizes dry and thirsty grounds? And if I just had time, I wasn't so tired, I'd show you the scripture real quick. Well, camels do. Camels do. So we see it's all fitting perfectly biblically. And I want you to see that this is a separate land from this land in the distance that's experiencing this destruction, which is associated also with the planetary alignment, which at this time I was looking at 5/5/2000 for being when that event would take place, when we had that planetary alignment. So this shows you at least that this drawing goes back, for your mind at least, to before 5/5/2000, because I'm drawing that planetary alignment and I've got it dated here, and you know, we all were expecting some major destruction at that point, but none of this other stuff I realized what was happening. Now look on this land that obviously is the doorway into this special exit place. It's a separate land. It's that pleasant place I'm just telling y'all guys. It's where the trees are. There's trees there. There's trees there. And then it's a dry and thirsty ground. Look at, okay, if you don't believe it's the moon, look above it, what I put above it. I just all of a sudden drew this random crab claw guy from, I remember reading some book about aliens, and they talked about people had seen crab claw guys, and I just for some reason wrote USA NASA on it to say that I guess I thought when I was a child they had something to do with it. And I guess here I'm finding out why I wrote it, because it says Dogon Cave Art Relief Subject 1 Crab Claw Man. So it was from some Dogon art, something I read, and it says Subject 1 Crab Claw Man with funny helmet. Well, I theorized back then, before 5/5/2000, which I'm telling you it was some 10 years even before that, that this had something to do with NASA. And then, you know, NASA had something to do with the moon. And then now look at this picture over here of this other astronaut dude. I'm telling you, the dude's on the moon. From all the symbolisms now that you can see, the dude's on the moon. And what has he got? He's got a rocket, man. He's got a rocket. It's the very same rocket that they got right here. All of my stuff interrelates, and these drawings might even be years apart, really. There could be 2 or 3 or even possibly 4 or 5 years between these two drawings here. And I've just always held on to all my drawings. And I almost threw this one away, believe it or not. And I can assure you that the Spirit got me not to do it. I almost threw it away. And then, like I told you guys before, it was my dad who initially first saw something in this drawing when he began to see something with 9/11 here. And when I looked at it, the second he said that, I immediately saw it all, and then it all began to make sense. And it's making big time sense right now with everything I told you. Oh boy. So this was what I wanted to show you guys right here, that all of this is so incredibly related There's our little planet Saturn right there, which is such a hot topic right now, which is all relative to the vision. And guess what, guys? Guess what? What do we got right there? What do we got right there? And it's even facing the same direction. Remember, to Matt and PG, I was going to talk to you guys about this stuff, where I told you I had other drawings where I thought the moon was there, the crescent facing the same direction. Well, there it is. There it is. And it's associated with what we're talking about, this destruction from the moon. And here we got who's going to cause it. It's a man-made thing initially that's going to take place. It's a man-made thing. These ones on the moon, by the symbolism, it's already all here. The only thing that's left for me to do is to get you to realize that from these verses here, describing them coming down, that this is where they're going to be coming down from. The heavens, the heaven location will be their refuge, the moon. But initially, as I said, these Danites are going to spring forth from the inner earth. And this unique thing with Enki being birthed between the earth and the moon, as you can see in Revelation chapter 12 with the woman in travail, opens up a whole nother video series. So look, we're not getting too far in this understanding, at least step by step, about the movie. We only got here to the 9/11 mark. Let's just move it right up here real quick to what I got written here. At exactly the 11-minute mark in the movie, remember, the 11 is the gate, 9/11. 11, the two towers, knowledge of good and evil, the opposite polarities, these opposites attract. It takes opposition to open something. One hand holds the bottle, the other hand torques it the opposite direction. These opposites are the gate. They're using this opposition of the gate to break a seal to bring forth this evil faction. At exactly 11 minutes, which symbolizes the gate, symbolizes the unity between 5, man, 6, that high serpent being, that enlightened one, 6, the sixth sense, in the Garden of Eden. At exactly the 11-minute mark, the new sun rises over a desolate city. And I'm telling you that it equals New York. Well, they're showing you that it's Los Angeles, but Los Angeles is coding for City of the Angels. Now, where are these angels going to be birthed from? They're going to be birthed from the destruction, and we're talking about the angels that are supposed to be the fake angels. And that's these Pleiadians that we see being symbolized with these 7 like looking wing things flying out here, and they want you to believe they're separate from them. Well, they're being birthed here, and it's being birthed where? Gotham. At Gotham, there's the second cup. All of this is taking place in relevance to that event. So it's not necessarily that they're being birthed right out the ground at that spot, but that's the trigger that births these beings. So the symbolism is, with LA as the city of angels, is really telling you what the chief designation for New York is to birth these angels, these Danites, these judges. At exactly the 11-minute mark, the new sun rises over a desolate city. That desolate city is really in its fullness New York. The 11 symbolizes the 2 towers that they've already begun to bring down, which represents, as you see it, the commercialism that is symbolized with the Big Apple, which I told you was only representative of one portion of Babylon. The other secretive portion of Babylon, which is ecclesiastical, symbolized by Regina, is going to be safe and sound. And just like Isaiah 34 says, there she plans to gather under her shadow all the vultures and the eagles. Okay? So at exactly 11 minutes, check that out. You can understand that symbolism. That's that dawning sun. That's the very same thing that will connect this El Rey as being a part of the very same faction, the very same agenda, if you can read through that psyops that we just did right here. Now remember, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. As I was saying, remember War of the Worlds, the people were turned to dust as well. This dust represents emptiness. The waters of life if they're not in you, you're dust. And you're not animated. You don't have the spirit in you. That's what they believe. They believe that we don't have the spirit in us, and we're going to just turn from these ashes. We're going to turn to dust. They believe that they're going to rise from the ashes like the phoenix, but to their philosophy and doctrine, they believe us as these dogs or these pigs, and that we're not going to rise from the dust because we're empty. And if you look at the gematria understanding for what they believe Jesus to be, it translates to empty. And then many of you know that they try to translate Jesus with Esau as describing as earth pig, in which you can see the relationship with their destruction of Gotham City, aka New York, is to rid the earth of the supposed Gotham earth pigs. Well, we're not earth pigs, and we don't have anything to do with that philosophy. That's their corrupt occultic doctrine. It's not ours. So we're not empty. We're not turning to this dust. We're going to be the ones that rise from the dust. But we won't be rising like no fiery phoenix. We'll be rising gloriously and humbly. Okay, at the 15-minute mark, once again, it shows you she's good at beating Tempest. And remember, this hail is a Tempest. We'll just bring it right on back so that you can see, man. I mean, it's there. I'm not steering you guys wrong. It's there. Where's the people to teach? Where's those ones that are supposedly got these big channels that are supposed to be helping all the people? I'm showing you guys what it is. I'm showing you guys where everybody is erring in their judgment. I'm showing you what channels are deceptive by the things they're teaching, or they're either ignorant and they're blind leading the blind. You can see, you can divide the word by what I'm showing you here. You can see it's all relative. You can see it's true. You can see the super spiritual, what someone calls supernatural occurrences that happen in my life with these drawings, how all this manifests and fulfills. Just like I said about the sodium pentothal and truth serum, and then like almost simultaneously as I'm saying it and making the video about it, they're saying they're going to give this James Holmes guy this sodium pentothal, this truth serum, in which, dudes, you have no idea. So there's the Tempest, okay? And then we know that Isaiah 34 associates it with Ishtar surviving. You see Ishtar 69 surviving and beating the game Tempest. All right, at the 15 second mark, the high score reads 5, 6, 7, and then 37, 36, 36. Now, I'm going to admit, I've thought about this, but nothing immediately came to me. The only thing that comes to me is seeing these three threes lined up as its relationship to the Gospel of Thomas, in which you see so many people try to promote, which I'm telling you, is not the truth. It's still deceptively intertwined with this man being made into a god, as associated with this end of the age thing that you really see is all about this deception and murder. Okay? And murder. So the 333 is there. And the GGG we could see. And once again, we could see a lot of things in significance with that right now, as I'm starting to see. Let's see. Hold on for 1 second here. There's something with this 37, but hold on 1 second. Interesting. Interesting. All right. there's a lot of stuff I'm seeing, but we'll talk about it another time. But one thing that's interesting is this number here of 37 and this number of 3636. It's interesting when you take it into perspective of what they're hoping to achieve. As I've already showed you this world age chart, and I told you from now to the start date for the Garden of Eden, per calculations from the Bible and the Mayan calendar, are 36,288 BC. Now, if you guys missed that video series, I actually found out later that the Urantia supported it within, I think, a few thousand years. They had the date where my date had almost matched it that close, and I was blown away. But yet I still stick with my dating of 36,288 BC, at least from the biblical perspective, and I cite the reasons for that in that video series. Nonetheless, it's right on target for the same time frame. And how you can equate that is because these world ages here that you see symbolized as 7 chakras. The Edenic age, if we do this with the world age cycle of the Mayan calendar, 5,125 added all the way up. And then this is going to bring us roughly to this dating of about 36,000, 40,000 years back. So if you were to round out my number of 36,000, you could see that for them to achieve their goal, that at the end of the close of the age, which would be closer to the 37,000 mark, there's some sort of significance there, but it might be only relative to me. I'm sure many of you guys could see all sorts of things there, but that's just basically the connections that I'm making right now. So I'll leave that open to you, and hopefully you might show me some things. It says, I want you, at this point I made a note, listen close to the music's subtle messages. Each time these scenes come with the songs are coded also. I got their sister's name is Samantha, and this is where I was going to tell you all that I've already told you, equals Uncle Sam. And then we know the DMK represent now the sons of Sam. Uncle Sam, red, white, and blue, USA. She's wearing a rebel sweater. Now I'm telling you, they're trying to spin that the USA is a product of these rebels, okay? In which the psyops is trying to say these are the bad rebels, and that they understand that they're the rebels too, and you know they're the sons of darkness and all that stuff. But man, don't fall for it. They're all a part of the same faction. So there's the spin. She's wearing a rebel sweater that's trying to indoctrinate and initiate the lower levels, and to fulfill them with this symbolism, to strengthen it in their mind. Okay, so she's wearing the rebel sweater, and this translates, as I said, back to the fallen, back to Ephraim, back to Dan, back to the fallen prince. Sam represents that part of the country that will be destroyed and survive. And then I've got survive because she's to survive this portion, the ecclesiastic portion, for DMK to inhabit with Ishtar, the fertility goddess. And then after her childlike adolescence is over, they knock her out, she is now mature enough for DMK to take her over. And I equated that childlike adolescence, where they symbolize her as the material girl in the mall, represents materialism, commercialism, New York City, you know, right there. Ain't nothing but materialism. The broad way. And here we have, this is when that boyfriend Hector character shows up. Now the Hector, Thor is in there. Okay, so we begin to get a pretense for deity that is of the Aryan nature, even though he's being displayed by a Mesoamerican character. That's my point. And as he fulfills himself later as the cowboy, you know that the cowboys are from Texas, generally, you know, in our modern terms. But even if not, you think of usually white dudes as cowboys, okay, usually. And then if you can think back to Assyrians, Aryans, and the association with the symbolisms of the Sumerians, some Aryans being symbolized with the bulls, then you can understand the significance of the cowboy showing him now as an Aryan character, but being disseminated by a Mesoamerican personality. And I said that that's connected to the pyramid of the sun and the moon in its association with Quetzalcoatl and those Mesoamerican soils. So the descent of the Mesoamerican soils, the symbolism of the Mesoamerican actor, is displaying an Aryan theme. And then this Hector also begins to fulfill itself as the hex. This is the one that was sealed with that hex, which represents the hexagram, which represents the tetrahedron, or the six-pointed star. But if you three-dimensionalize the six-pointed star, it has now 8 points because you have the poles. But in reality, the points themselves aren't really singular points. They're more like circular encompasses, but the encompasses are traced out by individual points. They're kind of clarified as such, but in reality, there's a different picture that's being painted there. But because of the material matter that is equating the discernible vision that you can see as you view a tetrahedron, like at the North Pole, if you were to see a thick cloud region develop over the North Pole and you were viewing from the satellite, you would begin to see a hexagonal shape show up in the void of the clouds over the North Pole, just like you see over Saturn as it's fulfilled within the gaseous atmosphere, which acts as a material medium to show that same shape. That's telling you about the circumscribed tetrahedral geometry. That is not an evil thing. It's an energy management system. It's a part of the seal that's in all things. It's representative of the energy of the Mother Spirit, which is representative of the infinite spirit, which pervades all space. All right, so now we go to the boyfriend Hector / Savior as he becomes, and then he evolves, as you saw, into Hank Goldman, the cowboy. And at about, and I just kind of went forward and told you the connections here, but really before he shows up as the Santa Claus at about the 1 hour, 8 minute mark and 40-second, and I guess it's at exactly that point is when the Santa Claus pulls up. And that's pretty interesting because 1 hour, 60 minutes represents represents Lucifer, the chief who originally spawned this before he was sealed. And then of course the 8 represents the 44, which represents double reality, which also represents the fallen prince, represents the ringer. And then this is how the fallen prince, it represents how the fallen prince is going to achieve his material identity, also by the double reality, which, if you remember from the Rabbi T and the chromosomes, the 44 part was there. All right, and then this number is the identity who is hoping to achieve that double reality from spirit to material manifestation. Okay, sorry if I kind of explained that a little fuzzy. So the 1 is the 60, represents Anu, their chief deity, Lucifer. The 8 represents the 44, which is how he's to achieve his double identity, his double reality, his magic trick, of which they're fulfilling in the mirror of Obama, is also the 44th president. And then the 40 represents the symbol of what actual identity is going to use this to achieve it all. All right? And then that's when we see this Santa guy pull up, which is going to be the fulfillment of the depiction of one of these mighty fallen ones, Satan. And you got to remember, Satan's the false prophet, and Satan's the false prophet of this material delusion, just like you see Santa Claus is the false prophet of this material delusion. He has the power to fly to and fro to the many different places, descending down the path of fire, which would be the chimney, and therefore begins to leave his little, material gifts. So it's the same thing that represents for Satan as bringing this destruction down the path of fire, which is bringing this material kingdom gift to the believers in the 1,000-year kingdom under false Israel. And as I said, this even relates further back with symbolism to the devil into Inky, as it's connected back with Northern Israel, because they've made a deal with the devil, who is that one who is in the theoretical hell, or one of the theoretical hell locations in the inner earth, which is associated within the dust of the earth, which is associated with the seal that's in the dust of the earth. So Enki plus Northern Israel plus Satan, the false prophet, is what's all being symbolized here. As you can see, Hector show up as this Santa character. And then Northern Israel's colors are red and white, and then the North Pole, it's all the same. It's all the same. All right. I never thought that the breakdown for this movie would take this long, but I also didn't realize that I was going to be talking about so many things also at the same time. I do have a sheet prepared for you about what I feel is relevant about the history of the Ankh. And I think we've already looked at this part pretty heavily. This is where we get Regina says she's a Cancer. I mean, man, like I said, I'm still just shocked. And she's wearing the purple. It proves what all this is about. It proves that it's all related to this crown chakra that they're hoping to achieve. It proves it all. So I think when I come back, I only have one more video, and it's going to be the most important one. If I'm lucky, I'm going to find a copy of this DVD, and I'm going to put it on, I'm going to pause it on TV, and I'm going to show you those images at the end, some of the most important ones as we talk about them, and then that way it's going to make a whole lot more sense, and we can provide the relative proof for what I'm saying. So I think when I come back, we'll start right here where Hank Goldman enters the scene, and then we'll break down this as you see it, and we'll talk about some other things. Let me go ahead and read this since we've already talked about it, and it looks like it's a good summary. USA is knocked out with sodium pentothal. USA equals SAM, red, white, and blue. Sodium represents salt, second cup, millstone into sea. Pentothal, pen, Enki, penthoth, all, thoth, serpent god, Quetzalcoatl. Pentothal, ice, north. It's also used to knock out the patient. Okay, they use sodium pentothal in real life to actually knock people out. Now this relates us back to that propaganda of Coney, knock out New York, anagram for. It's not an anagram, it's I forgot what it's called. I'm getting tired. I know you guys are too. But Coney, letter for letter, stands for knock out New York. And I remember Bill did some videos about that. Pretty interesting. And it puts them to sleep, the sodium pentothal does. So I'm looking at all the variable connections with the sodium pentothal and how it relates to this agenda. So they're wanting to put people to sleep. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. At least the people that are fulfilled within the ideology of commercial Babylon, those are the undesirables. Those are the ones they want to get rid of. Those are the ones they want to knock out. Those are the ones they want to put to sleep. And then they'll revive the land back, Samantha, red, white, and blue, for the inherency of these fallen ones. So it's known as truth serum. Somehow that just manifested in the news, virtually at the exact same time I'm talking about it. And I've never thought about truth serum, but maybe once or twice in my life when I maybe first encountered it. And now I start talking about it, and it's manifested itself as world news associated to something that I actually predicted, that's connected in the same coding that I predicted before the coding was ever known about the Batman sacrifice. Because before that all ever happened, I had the coding of the Batman thing as the key to the whole thing before any of this took place. So, sorry I get a little excited. I wish I could stop that part of me. So it's known as truth serum. That's what they knock out Sam with. That's what they're faking everybody out with and putting them to sleep. And they're trying to tell you guys they're waking you up. But in reality, as we see right here, they're putting you to sleep. The sodium pentothal is the fake truth movement. These agents, and look at them display. Look at some of your favorite big boy channels that got their avatars up there that are wearing shades. Now, some of these people do got shades as their avatar, and they don't know it. And they're just doing it because they might want to hide their identity for the correct purposes. But I'm going to tell you, I notice a lot of these people do it the second I start talking about shades, and they almost do it because they want me to be aware. Well, I'm aware. Fake truth movement agents represents the manifestation of this sodium pentothal being used to knock out the U.S., really being used to knock out the common peoples of the truth-seeking movement who are looking for the truth that don't know no better. And they're trying to keep you guys from my channel. So it says here that the originator of this truth serum, the one who created it, its conceptual originator, Robert House, intended it to be used to exonerate and free prisoners. What prisoners? Those that have been sealed? What, the Danites? The fallen prince? Those prisoners? Unreal. Fractal complete. The truth serum is being used to free prisoners, and I'm telling you that the destruction of New York is doing what? It ain't doing nothing but birthing these beings that have been sealed. The prisoners. Now, as you know, Jesus Christ has come for the lost sheep. He's come to set all captives free. In the fullness of this, Jesus Christ even has offered the freeing to these prisoners a long time ago, but they didn't take it. They're still choosing this route as their freedom, but this freedom is an abomination because they are trying to break a universal law of which has been decreed, which mankind has dominion over the earth. These beings are trying to seize that dominion from us. And that's just not right. No matter how you spin it, no matter how many people you fool into giving you what's theirs, if you've done it dishonestly, it's not yours. You fooled them into giving up what was rightfully theirs. So it's not yours. I hope that this has been interesting as well as educational, and in some ways spiritually liberating, and helped you guys to get to maybe possibly know my insights better and to realize that there is some things of value on this channel. Thanks for listening.